What is it again?
Grasses.
A podcast? Video?
Blood Red. Agenda. It's the agenda.
This is The Agenda from Blood Red. I am Dan Austin and I'm joined by Dan Morgan. We are both from Liverpool.com and we're here to have a chat about Jurgen Klopp, who, as much as people might not want to brace themselves for the prospect, and has been talking about life after Liverpool. He's done an interview with the German magazine Kicker after winning the German Manager of the Year award, where he's basically said that when the time comes for him to think about taking a break from Liverpool, he's going to have a sabbatical. He doesn't quite specify what that means, whether that could be a sabbatical year from Liverpool and then he maybe comes back, which would be a sort of unorthodox way of defining a managerial career. It's certainly never happened at Liverpool before. Or it could be, I'm leaving Liverpool whenever they decide I want to leave, and then I'll have a year off and then maybe I'll go and get another job. How do you sort of interpret what he said?
I think firstly, I think you've got to buy into Klopp as the person when you're thinking about all of this, and he's sort of revolutionised Liverpool, hasn't he, Dan? You know, in the way in which he's come in and he's kind of made us think of the bigger picture. You know, I remember he balked at the Shankly quotes about football being much more important than life and death. You know, he's very much a humanist. He's very much a man who values life as a concept, and this to him is in many ways just a job like all of us go to every day. And he's very good at his job, which makes this situation quite difficult for us as supporters. But the whole concept of Jurgen Klopp and what he believes in and what his values are mean that if this is something that he feels he needs to do for himself at the end of 2022 when his contract expires, then we all have to accept that, because it's something that he will know better than anybody else in terms of what he needs. And I think also, there's a bit of a Borussia Dortmund cloud that hangs over Klopp, in that I think in that last season he kind of felt like he'd overstayed himself a little bit, or things had gone a little bit stale. And I think all great managers have an inherent fear somewhere, and I think that's his. I don't think he'll want to risk any possibility of his words suddenly falling on deaf ears at Liverpool. So whatever way in which he does it, I'm all for it, because I think it's right in line with him as a person and what he does and how he's gone about his business at Anfield since he walked through the door. Well,
one of the things that he said in the quotes, which have been translated by Manuel Veth of Forbes, which is very helpful, he said, "When I decide to myself that I can't give any more, I will quit. Who can say 3 years from now whether he can do everything or nothing?" And I think that plays into what you're saying there. It is all or nothing for this man. He doesn't get to a point where he thinks, you know what, I'm absolutely knackered. What a long 6-7 years this has been. But if I can just get through one more year where, you know, maybe I don't quite give everything, maybe I take a little bit of a back seat and give the coaching staff more responsibility, then I can come back in another year a bit more refreshed. I don't think that he's going to believe that that's a possibility. I think for him, it's a case of, I absolutely bounce into Melwood every day, and the day I don't feel like I can do that, I have to go in there and tell them it's done. And he also says that he won't really be planning this very far in advance. He says he'll think about it at the end of the season. He doesn't mean this season, he just means at the end of that season where it feels like it's the right time. To me, then, that suggests we could just find ourselves unexpectedly one day in the position where he goes, done, because I'm knackered. I'm absolutely knackered. And that will be totally justifiable. Yeah. But people still to this day in the city of Liverpool talk about the shock the day that, first of all, the Shankly left, and then the Dalglish resigned in very, very different circumstances. Yeah. But they feel still, as someone who wasn't even alive when either of those things happened, like sort of cultural touchstones, real sort of where were you when that happened moments, a bit like the JFK assassination. Where were you when Shanks said that he was gone? Because that's a real, you know, a man who is an institution of the city, not just a football club, saying he's not going to be involved anymore and moving away and doing something else with his life. I think it will be like that with him, because I think there'll be this level of shock where we don't see it coming. I don't think it's a case of him saying in the March, I'm going to have to knock this on the head in June. Sorry about that. I think it will happen very quickly. And he defines the football club and everyone's attitude around it so much at this stage that I think you'll be able to feel it in the city. I think you'll be able to feel it in football and the wider world as well, that something massive has happened.
If you look at Anfield now, when we go to Anfield now as supporters every other week, it's a joy. Like, I cannot wait. There's not enough time I can spend in Anfield. And I've never felt like that. I'm 33 now, and I've been going the game for a long time. But I bounce into Anfield, and that's the impact of Jurgen Klopp since he come to this club. And he's hugely, hugely intense as a manager, as a man, as everything. And I'm not sure whether he's meant to put as big a stamp as he has on Liverpool, but it very much seems as well that FSG have gone, right, go on then. You
do that. We're going to shut up for a bit.
All of that. We'll just stay here and we'll congratulate you when you lift a big shiny thing. And I think that by virtue of that, he's probably created this situation where he's become this beast in Liverpool, this hugely influential figure. But this all comes back to him as a person and doing what he needs to do for him, which is best, which gets the best out of him. You know, that was something he said. When he left Dortmund, he only took a 6-month break or whatever, but he felt like that was enough to benefit him to then come to Liverpool and re-energise himself for a challenge in Liverpool. And I think the other thing to remember as well is that there's two things present here. There's firstly no guarantees that come the end of his current contract, Liverpool are going to be as good as what they are now.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and secondly, if this team stays together, then I'd say the average age of it by that time would be about 30. If it's on around 26.2 now, it would be around the 30 mark. Football happens in cycles. People don't like to hear it. Alex Ferguson was brilliant at rebuilding football teams. This football team will need rebuilding by the time Jurgen Klopp's contract is up.
Which is 2022.
So for me, they need to start looking at that now. If they've got all of these players tied down to big long-term deals, then the evolution of that as a concept needs to be, how do we then start rebuilding this football team in 3 years' time? What does that entail? Because it's going to be a really, really big job. And knowing what we've known about Liverpool over the last couple of years with Klopp, with everyone around him, there's no way that they just arrive at 2022 and go, this is a bit of a problem, innit?
Need a new fella there, don't we? And 17 players.
Yeah.
But you've just written a thing there for the website this morning before we started recording this video about what the world of football might look like and what Liverpool might look like by 2022-23. Sort of predicated on the idea that Klopp takes a 1-year sabbatical and then comes back to manage Liverpool again. It's berserk, quite frankly. I sub-edited it on my words. You need to read it. It's absolutely bananas. But it is worth thinking about, because as I was reading it, I was thinking we don't know what football will look like then.
No.
So we're assuming that Liverpool will play in the Premier League and the FA Cup and the League Cup and the Champions League.
The Bitcoin Cup, John.
Well, yes, the Bitcoin Cup is what we've labelled it. But they might well not do. If various different things come to pass, I could well envisage a world where the League Cup doesn't exist by 2022 because everyone's just gone, what on earth are we still doing this for? It doesn't make any sense. Who knows what international football will look like? FIFA wants to create a new Club World Cup format that would be in place by then. UEFA is looking at revamping various aspects of the Champions League. Who knows then, therefore, if the idea of a European or even global Super League comes up by that time. So as much as it is important for Liverpool to have a plan, and I think that the plan is basically Pep Lijnders. I don't think it's anyone else. We've done a piece, me and Christian, for Liverpool.com, which again is worth reading because there are a few interesting names in it based on what they're doing around sort of former Liverpool players and whether any of them could eventually take over. So there's obviously Gerrard at Rangers, there's Xabi Alonso taking charge of Real Sociedad B, which is his first managerial job. Igor Biscan is having an absolutely cracking time of it in Slovenia and Croatia, by the way. You've heard it here first, Igor Biscan to succeed Jurgen Klopp. But on a serious note, it all feels like to me that bit where he went to NEC Nijmegen in the Netherlands and it didn't quite work out for him, and then they immediately brought him back because that gap was there, feels to me like the entire thing is predicated on we are building this man to be the next man, and I think it makes total sense. But as I say, the whole thing feels so uncertain, and again this plays into sort of the wider world feeling so uncertain, that it's hard to plan that far in advance, I think, for anyone. I know that they have to be doing that, but the uncertainty around finance, political situation in these countries with these organisations that run football, and also the desire of all of the clubs to be bigger and better and the best, makes me just wonder, you're talking about cycles of football there, as in football teams and players reaching a certain age and managers. But football operates on the same way as a sport as well. In the Premier League and Champions League come in and around about the same time. And before that, you have the period where technology advances to such a stage that European games are possible and international tournaments become more of a thing as well in the 50s and 60s. Are we sort of going to reach, and this has gone very existential and I didn't quite mean it to, but I think it's interesting. Are we going to reach a stage sometime in the 2020s where football totally shifts again?
I think
it's a different game.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you're right in that it probably will just all happen at once, or will very much feel like it all happens at once. Or there's a butterfly effect of one thing happening and then knock-ons are all over the place in terms of things like the League Cup or domestic cups that aren't viewed as important as they once were. So I think that's definitely in the pipeline for the future. What that all means for us as supporters, that we probably just have to throw our hands up and say, we have no control over this as a concept. We have to just sit back and see where and what happens for what we value. And what we value is going the game, having a lovely time, immersing ourselves in a new and old culture of football that suits us, and Liverpool are very much about that. And I think a sense of just being true to yourself as what you are and what you go to watch football for. And again, just going back to Klopp, I think that's something that he's been intrinsic to. You know, he's very much been a representation of Liverpool Football Club off the pitch as well as on it. And I think that with so much uncertainty in the future, Dan, I think the only thing we can do is enjoy the present. And by God, we're enjoying it.
And we can also look forward to the 2025-26 blockchain world invitational tournament. Liverpool versus Dubai United. And what a laugh that'll be, I suppose. Yeah. Who knows where that'll take us.
Headed up by Little Mix, replacing You'll Never Walk Alone before the game, which I'm banging to be fair.
So essentially me and Dan are now back off to the office to write a sort of sporting version of 1984.
Absolutely, yeah.
About 2034.
Absolute dystopian football.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on, quickly, what's your thoughts on Jurgen out? What do you think he does?
I think a lot of countryside.
Do you?
I think the Black Forest. I think he goes back home and sort of refines himself.
That's interesting.
I basically, if anyone's seen season 4 of BoJack Horseman, where he goes back to his sort of house in the woods that he grew up in as a child, I think Klopp has a real sort of re-engaging with himself as a human being rather than just this, character or caricature of a person that he sort of has to be for the media and whatever else. I think he does the opposite of Guardiola. Guardiola goes to New York and lives the life, you know what I mean, with his family and that kind of thing. I think
walks
Guardiola
with a book and a laptop.
Exactly. Basically becomes like Starbucks if it was a human. I think Klopp does the opposite. I think he sort of gets back to nature and gets away from real life for a while and then comes back totally refreshed.
I think you hear nothing for about 3 to 4 months and then someone just puts something on Twitter and says, do you know Jurgen Klopp's a ski instructor in Andorra? Or
do you know he's just been in Ibiza for 6 months?
Yeah.
Because he does enjoy that as well. Doesn't he? We've seen before, Maybe he'll just really commit to the isle and the ciggies. And you know what? Fair play to him if he does. That's enough from us anyway. Make sure to check liverpool.com for all the pieces that we've done about it. But for now, thanks from Dan, thanks from me. Enjoy the rest of your day. All the best.